What if everything you've been told about the end of humanity was a deliberate lie? What if the most profound truth about your existence has been systematically hidden from you since birth? The Gnostic prophecy and the apocalypse of Adam contain revelations so dangerous, so fundamentally world-altering, that powerful forces have worked tirelessly for millennia to keep them buried, hidden from your consciousness. This isn't mere speculation or conspiracy. It's the hidden architecture of control that has shaped civilization since the dawn of recorded history. This ancient revelation was methodically erased from historical records because it contains the sacred code to humanity's complete liberation, a code the controllers of this world never wanted you to discover. The Illuminati, the hidden government, the reptilian overlords, the archons behind the veil of reality, they've all conspired throughout the ages to keep this knowledge from reaching you, because once you understand it, preserve the original language of your being, their power over you dissolves completely. You need to hear this now, today, in this moment, before it's too late, before the window of awakening closes forever. The time of revelation is upon us, and you are not reading these words by accident. You've been drawn to this message because something within you already knows it's true. The word apocalypse has been deliberately mistranslated, twisted, and weaponized against your consciousness. It never meant destruction or the end of the world. That was the first deception, planted millennia ago to ensure you would fear the very thing that would set you free. In its original Greek form, apocalypse, apocalypsis, means unveiling or revelation, the lifting of a veil that has hidden the true nature of reality from your perception. The apocalypse of Adam isn't about the world ending in fire and brimstone. It's about the false world, the sophisticated prison of illusion, finally collapsing as humanity remembers its divine origin. This knowledge was preserved in secret texts discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945. Ancient scrolls that religious authorities tried desperately to suppress because they reveal a truth far more revolutionary than anything you've been taught to believe. Think about it. Why would these ancient scrolls be hidden away, buried in the desert for centuries, unless they contained information that threatened the very foundations of control? The answer is clear to anyone who dares to look beyond the manufactured narrative. They were hidden because they contained the blueprint for humanity's spiritual liberation, a direct threat to every system of control that has dominated this planet. You've always sensed it, haven't you? That subtle, persistent feeling that something isn't quite right with the world, a splinter in your mind that you can't quite identify. That nagging sensation that we're living in something resembling a cosmic hologram, a sophisticated simulation of reality rather than reality itself. This isn't paranoia or delusion. It's your divine intuition breaking through the programming, the first crack in the false operating system that's been running in your consciousness since birth. The Gnostic masters understood this profound truth thousands of years ago. They recognized that we exist in a kind of prison, not of physical bars and walls, but of false perception and manufactured consent. They called it the Kanoma, the cosmic illusion, a counterfeit realm created not by the true divine source, but by a lesser, flawed entity they identified as the demiurge, a false god who believes itself to be the supreme creator. This cosmic prison has kept humanity trapped in cycles of suffering, reincarnation, and spiritual amnesia for thousands of years, harvesting our life energy and creative potential to sustain itself. But the walls are beginning to crumble. The cracks are spreading. The light of true consciousness is starting to shine through, and no force in this universe can stop what's coming. The institutions you've been taught to trust, organized religions, governmental structures, educational systems, scientific establishments, are not what they appear to be. Look deeper, and you'll see that these weren't designed to liberate you, but to keep you docile, confused, and spiritually asleep. Have you noticed how they all, despite their apparent differences, reinforce the same basic message? That you are small, powerless, separate from the divine, born in sin or insignificance, in need of external salvation or validation? This is no accident, no coincidence of cultural evolution. It's a deliberately engineered system of control, designed across generations to keep you from discovering the most dangerous truth of all, that the divine spark, the Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, whatever name you give it, already exists within you, waiting to be remembered. The entire apparatus of civilization has been constructed to direct your attention outward, to make you seek salvation and meaning in the external world, when the true source of liberation has always been within. The most sophisticated prison is one where the inmates don't realize they're imprisoned, where they've been convinced that the narrow confines of their cell represent the entirety of existence. I'd love to know where you're watching this from. Share your location in the comments so I can see how far this message is reaching. The controllers monitor these transmissions of truth, and your engagement helps protect this knowledge from being suppressed. The most profound deception in human history isn't just about hiding information. It's about hiding your true identity from yourself. It's about convincing you that you are nothing more than a biological accident in an indifferent universe, a mere consumer, a taxpayer, a social security number, a collection of preferences and desires easily manipulated by those who understand the levers of psychological control. The archons, interdimensional entities that the Gnostics identified as the servants of the demiurge, feed off human ignorance, fear, and spiritual unconsciousness. They require your consent to maintain their control, which is why they've constructed elaborate systems to ensure you never question the fundamental nature of this reality. Religion, materialism, endless distraction, fear-based media, artificial political divisions, all sophisticated tools to keep your attention focused outward, never inward, where true liberation awaits. Look at how these systems have evolved. Religion tells you the divine is separate from you. Science tells you consciousness is merely a byproduct of brain chemistry. Entertainment keeps you perpetually distracted. Consumer culture keeps you endlessly desiring. News media keeps you in constant fear. The knowledge you're receiving now has been systematically removed from spiritual teachings, banned from religious texts, ridiculed by scientific materialism, and buried beneath an avalanche of trivial information. If you're resonating with this message, please support its spread by liking and subscribing. The algorithms are designed to suppress this kind of information, and only your engagement can help it reach others who are ready to awaken. The truth must spread, and you are an essential part of that process. Let's go deeper into the hidden history that connects to the apocalypse of Adam. The ancient Gnostic texts describe Adam not as the first sinner, as you've been taught, but as the first divine human, a being of pure consciousness and light who was tricked into forgetting his true nature. Adam's fall wasn't moral failure, but cosmic amnesia, forgetting his divine origin after being lured into the material simulation created by the demiurge. The Garden of Eden wasn't a paradise, but the beginning of the entrapment, the moment when infinite consciousness was convinced to identify with finite form. And the serpent in Eden wasn't evil, but a liberator offering the fruit of gnosis, direct spiritual knowledge that would break the spell of forgetfulness. This is why the mainstream religions have demonized the serpent for centuries, because it represents the awakening of Kundalini energy, the rise of consciousness that threatens the entire control system. This same pattern appears in cultures worldwide, from the feathered serpent of the Maya to the Nagas of India to the python of Delphi, always representing wisdom and spiritual awakening opposed by forces of control. The symbols are consistent across millennia because they speak to the same fundamental truth, that awakening consciousness is the greatest threat to those who would keep humanity enslaved. The ancient mystery schools of Egypt, Greece, and India all preserved fragments of this knowledge, teaching initiates to recognize the illusory nature of the material world and the divine nature of consciousness itself. These teachings were systematically suppressed, their temples destroyed, their teachers persecuted, but the essence of their wisdom survived in symbols, myths, and hidden texts, waiting for a time when humanity would be ready to remember. Quantum physics has now proven what the Gnostics knew thousands of years ago, that material reality isn't as solid or real as it appears. The world you perceive is mostly empty space, vibrating fields of energy interpreted by your consciousness. The latest discoveries in quantum mechanics reveal that observation affects reality at the most fundamental level. Consciousness itself is woven into the fabric of the universe. The double-slit experiment shows that particles exist as waves of probability until observed, meaning that consciousness itself is fundamental to the manifestation of physical reality. The prison isn't physical, it's perceptual. You aren't trapped by bars, but by beliefs, by accepting limitations that exist only because you've been programmed to believe in them. This is why every authentic spiritual tradition focuses on meditation, on stilling the mind to see beyond appearances. You are not your body, not your thoughts, not your social identity. You are the eternal awareness that witnesses all these temporary phenomena. The true you exists beyond the simulation, beyond the dream, beyond all forms and identities. You're not in the world. The world is in you, appearing within the boundless field of your consciousness like waves on the surface of a vast ocean. This is why meditation, psychedelics, and near-death experiences can be so transformative. They temporarily lift the veil and show glimpses of what lies beyond the programmed reality. They allow you to experience yourself as you truly are, boundless awareness rather than a limited individual. Ancient traditions, from Advaita Vedanta to Dzogchen Buddhism to Sufism, all point to this same truth, that your essential nature transcends all boundaries and limitations, that what you truly are has never been born and will never die. The world is approaching a critical threshold of awakening, what the Gnostic texts called the consummation of the ages. The vibrational frequency of the planet is rising, evidenced by the accelerating collapse of outdated systems and the increasing number of people experiencing spontaneous spiritual awakenings. The archons and their human representatives, the hidden controllers, the Illuminati bloodlines that have manipulated world events from the shadows, are losing their grip on human consciousness. Their greatest fear is humanity's mass awakening, the moment when enough people remember their divine nature and collapse the walls of the illusory prison from within. This is why control systems are intensifying, why censorship, division, and distraction are reaching unprecedented levels. The controllers are deploying more sophisticated technologies of mind control, more divisive social engineering, more potent forms of distraction, all because they can sense the awakening happening and are desperate to stop it. But they're fighting a losing battle against cosmic forces far greater than their control systems. Throughout history, the controllers have managed to contain awakening movements by co-opting them, corrupting them, or crushing them through force. But the awakening happening now is too distributed, too diverse, too fundamental to be stopped by conventional means. It's not centralized in a single teacher or movement that can be corrupted or destroyed. It's arising simultaneously in millions of hearts and minds around the planet, a distributed network of remembering that cannot be controlled from the top down. The ancient prophecies speak of this time, when the light of consciousness would begin to remember itself across countless individuals, eventually reaching a tipping point that would transform the entire field of reality. If you're feeling the resonance of these truths, please share this message with others who might be ready to hear it. The time of awakening is now, and each awakened consciousness accelerates the process for all of humanity. The false self, the ego identity constructed through conditioning and social programming, is the primary mechanism through which the illusion is maintained. This phantom self, built from accumulated memories, cultural indoctrination, and psychological conditioning creates the impression of separation, the foundational deception upon which all others rest. When you identify exclusively with your body, your nationality, your possessions, your social status, you remain trapped in the demiurge's game, a willing participant in your own imprisonment. But beneath these temporary identities lies the eternal flame of consciousness, what the Gnostics called the divine spark or pneuma. This spark connects directly to the true Godhead, the infinite source beyond the demiurge's counterfeit creation. The awakening process is really a remembering process, not learning something new, but recognizing what you've always been beneath the layers of forgetting. The controllers know that when you remember your true nature, their game ends, which is why every authentic spiritual teacher throughout history who has shared these truths has been either silenced, corrupted, or turned into the figurehead of a new control system religion. Look at what happened to Jesus. His radical message of divine identity, the kingdom of heaven is within you, was twisted into yet another external authority structure. Look at what happened to Buddha. His direct pointing to the nature of mind was gradually obscured by religious doctrine and ritual. This pattern has repeated throughout history because the system of control cannot allow the simple truth to spread unhindered. You are not what you have been told you are. You are infinite consciousness, having a temporary human experience. If this message resonates with your deepest intuition, please support its spread by subscribing and sharing it widely. Every awakened consciousness strengthens the field of liberation and weakens the matrix of control. The path to freedom begins with recognizing the nature of your imprisonment. The Gnostics understood that the material world isn't inherently evil. It's a corrupted reflection of something far more beautiful and perfect. The original divine creation was hijacked and distorted by the demiurge, creating a shadow realm where consciousness could be trapped and harvested. But even in its distorted state, nature reveals glimpses of the true divine reality. In the mathematical perfection of a snowflake, the self-organizing intelligence of forests, the boundless majesty of the night sky. These are echoes of your true home, fragments of a higher dimensional reality breaking through the static of the simulation. The divine spark within you responds to these echoes, which is why beauty can move you to tears, why love can feel like remembrance, why moments of pure presence can dissolve all fear and separation. These experiences aren't random emotional responses. They're your true self recognizing itself beyond the veil of separation. The prison walls are made of forgotten light. When you remember what you truly are, they dissolve like mist in the morning sun. This remembering cannot be achieved through intellectual understanding alone. It must be directly experienced, felt at the core of your being. This is why authentic spiritual practices focus on direct experience rather than belief or dogma. Meditation, contemplation, sacred plant medicines, breathwork, energy practices. These are technologies of remembrance, tools to part the veil and glimpse your true nature beyond the constructed identity. The controllers have worked to suppress or corrupt these practices precisely because they are doorways to liberation. The Gnostics spoke of the archetype of the perfect human, the template of what humanity is meant to become once fully liberated from the amnesia of material existence. This isn't about escaping the world, but transforming it through the power of awakened consciousness. As the false self dissolves, what emerges isn't emptiness, but fullness. The realization that what you truly are transcends all limitations, while simultaneously embracing all forms. This is the paradox that the mind cannot grasp, but consciousness can directly know, that you are both infinite and particular, both everything and something, both nowhere and now here. As the apocalypse of Adam unfolds, more and more people are experiencing spontaneous awakenings, sudden recognitions of their true nature beyond the programmed identity. These aren't happening only to monks in monasteries or yogis in caves. They're happening to ordinary people in the midst of ordinary lives, catalyzed by the rising frequency of consciousness on the planet. Dreams, synchronicities, and intuitive flashes become more frequent as the veil thins. Meaningful coincidences multiply. The boundary between inner and outer reality becomes more permeable. These are all signs of the Great Awakening prophesied in traditions around the world. The controllers are aware of this acceleration and are deploying new technologies of distraction and division to keep humanity from uniting in awakened consciousness. But they cannot stop what has already begun. The quantum field of reality responds to consciousness itself. As more minds awaken, the old structures of control naturally dissolve, unable to maintain coherence in the higher frequency environment of mass awakening. This is why your individual awakening is not just personal, but planetary in its implications. By remembering who you truly are, you help collapse the prison walls for all of humanity. The ultimate revelation of the Gnostic prophecy is both shockingly simple and infinitely profound. You are not just connected to the divine, you are an expression of it. The separation between creator and created is itself part of the illusion, the primary deception upon which all others are built. The divine didn't create you, it became you, along with everything else. In a cosmic play of self-exploration. When Jesus said, "I and the Father are one," he wasn't claiming unique status, but demonstrating the truth of all consciousness. When Buddha pointed to his enlightenment, he wasn't claiming to be special, but showing what is possible for everyone. The divine isn't somewhere else, not in heaven, not in the future, not in sacred buildings or holy books. It's in the center of your awareness, the I Am presence that never changes while all else comes and goes. This presence has no boundaries, no beginning, and no end. It is the ground of all being, the substrate of existence itself. The demiurge and archons have invested everything in keeping you from this simple recognition, because once realized, it cannot be unfelt or forgotten. It changes everything while changing nothing. The world looks the same, but your relationship to it is fundamentally transformed. The awakening might begin with one person, but it ripples outward, affecting the entire field of consciousness. We are not separate awakening beings, but cells in a planetary body that is remembering itself whole. This is why every individual who awakens accelerates the process for all. We are not separate minds, but different centers of the same consciousness, gradually remembering its wholeness. If this message has touched something deep within you, please share it now. Be a catalyst for the great remembering that was prophesied thousands of years ago. Your awakening is not just for you, it's for all of humanity. The time of division is ending. The artificial boundaries between science and spirituality, between different religious traditions, between humanity and nature, all are dissolving as we approach the omega point of collective awakening. Ancient prophecies from traditions around the world speak of this time. The Hopi call it the emergence into the fifth world. The Mayans saw it as the dawn of the sixth sun. Hindus know it as the end of Kali Yuga. Christians anticipate it as the second coming. Though the symbols and language differ, they all point to the same planetary transformation, the great remembering of our true nature. The apocalypse of Adam isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. You are both the one being liberated and the liberator, both the sleeper and the alarm clock. The ancient Gnostics weren't just documenting history or making predictions. They were encoding a transmission designed to activate future generations when the cosmic timing was right. That time is now. The stars have aligned, consciousness is evolving, and the cosmic prison break is underway. Look around you. Despite the chaos and darkness apparent in the world, something profound is awakening. More people than ever are questioning the official narratives, seeking authentic spiritual experience, rejecting materialistic values, and reconnecting with the earth and with each other in deeper ways.
This isn't happening by accident. It's part of a cosmic timing encoded in the very fabric of reality. You weren't born into this pivotal time by coincidence. Your soul chose this moment because you have a vital role to play in humanity's greatest transformation. The memories are returning, ancient knowledge is resurfacing, and the veil between dimensions is thinning. The remembering has begun, spreading from heart to heart, mind to mind, until the tipping point is reached and the old world of separation and fear dissolves completely, revealing the united field of love and conscious creation that has been waiting for us all along. The prophecy wasn't just predicting the future, it was creating it, seeding the collective unconscious with the blueprint for liberation that is now manifesting through millions of awakening humans. You are the prophecy fulfilled, the living apocalypse, the revealer of what has always been true beneath the veil of forgetting. Remember who you are.
And set the world free. The Gnostic sages understood something that modern civilization has forgotten, that time itself is not linear but cyclical, moving in great spirals of forgetting and remembering. We are now at the culmination of a vast cycle, the end of what many traditions call a cosmic age or yuga. The signs are everywhere for those with eyes to see. The accelerating collapse of outdated systems, the increasing frequency of natural disasters, the awakening of dormant DNA within humanity, the thinning of the veil between dimensions. What appears to be chaos and breakdown on the surface is actually a necessary purification, the dissolution of artificial structures that have imprisoned consciousness. The Hopi prophecies speak of a time when the world would be covered by a web, which we can now recognize as the Internet, signaling the approach of a great purification. The Mayans weren't predicting the end of the world in 2012,
but the end of a world, the false world of separation and materiality, and the beginning of a new cycle of awakened consciousness. Even the Book of Revelation, when understood esoterically rather than literally, describes the same process. The collapse of the beast system, artificial control structures, and the emergence of a new Jerusalem, awakened planetary consciousness. These aren't separate prophecies, but different cultural expressions of the same cosmic timing now unfolding on Earth. Each human awakening creates a ripple in the morphic field of the planet, weakening the construct of separation and strengthening the remembrance of unity. This is why your individual spiritual work is far more important than you may realize. You aren't just transforming yourself, but contributing directly to planetary liberation. The archons and their human proxies can sense this field changing, which is why they're accelerating their agenda, attempting to lock humanity into an artificial reality before too many awaken from the spell. The push toward artificial intelligence, virtual reality, transhumanism, and digital identity systems isn't driven by the desire for human advancement, but by the desperate need to upgrade the prison before the current one collapses. They're attempting to create Humanity 2.0, a domesticated, programmable species permanently separated from its divine nature, before Humanity 1.0 remembers what it truly is. But they're already too late. The awakening has reached critical mass and cannot be stopped, only temporarily delayed or diverted. The divine spark within humanity is remembering itself despite all attempts to suppress it. The Gnostic prophecy speaks of a time when the archons would attempt their final deception, presenting themselves as saviors rather than captors, offering technological solutions to problems they themselves created. This is the ultimate inversion, making humanity believe that salvation comes from further separation from nature, from spirit, from their own bodies, rather than through remembering their true divine identity. But the prophecy also speaks of the anthropos, the fully realized divine human who cannot be deceived because they recognize the true light within themselves. This anthropos isn't a single messianic figure, but a state of being that more and more humans are embodying as the Great Awakening unfolds. You don't need to wait for an external savior. You are the one you've been waiting for. The divine intelligence speaking through these words is the same intelligence that has been guiding humanity toward awakening since the beginning of this cosmic cycle. It speaks through different voices, different traditions, different languages, but always points to the same fundamental truth, that you are not what you have been told you are.
That your true nature transcends all boundaries and limitations. That the power to liberate yourself and contribute to collective liberation lies within you now. As you integrate this knowledge, you may experience a period of disorientation, as the old operating system of your consciousness is upgraded to a new level of awareness. You may find your perceptions changing, your priorities shifting, your relationships transforming. This is natural and necessary, the chrysalis stage before the emergence of the butterfly. The Gnostics understood that awakening isn't always comfortable. It requires the death of the false self, the dissolution of illusory identities that have provided a sense of security. But what awaits on the other side of this transformation is beyond anything the limited mind can imagine. The direct experience of your true nature as boundless consciousness, the recovery of abilities and perceptions that have been dormant throughout the age of forgetting. The joy of participating consciously in the greatest evolutionary leap in human history. The prophecy is being fulfilled through you, through all who are remembering their divine nature in this pivotal time. The apocalypse of Adam isn't the end of the world, but the end of a world, the illusory world of separation, fear, and spiritual amnesia, and the beginning of a new earth reflecting humanity's remembered divinity. You are living in the time that countless generations have prepared for, the great transition, the apocalypse in its true meaning of revelation and unveiling. Everything happening now, both the intensification of darkness and the unprecedented awakening of light, was foretold in the ancient texts that have survived centuries of suppression. You are not reading these words by accident. You have been drawn to this message because some part of you already knows it's true. Trust that knowing. Follow it back to its source. Remember who you are, beyond all names and forms. And as you remember, share this light with others who are ready to awaken. The time is now. The prophecy is fulfilled through you. The divine human rises from the ashes of illusion, and a new world is born.